2 or 3 centuries earlier, it was difficult for any common person to know much about the wider world. The amount of information an ordinary person can get his hands on was limited. There were no radios, televisions, daily newspaper, or public libraries. Even if you were among the lucky few who were literate and had access to private library, there was not much to read other than novels and religious tracts. The information was scarce, and besides, the empires that ruled back then were busy in banning books and censoring any information that was against their worldview. Spanish Empire, Russian Empire, Japanese, British, and the Ottomans, everyone was busy in censoring information. But the empires of the 21st century, I mean our beloved governments, are themselves busy in spreading misinformation or propaganda, whatever you choose to call it. In this age of information abundance or overload, those who get ahead will be the folks who figure out what to leave out so they can concentrate on what is really important to them. And to help you become such a person who can differentiate between what is important and what is not, before this video ends, I am going to show you some fascinating systems capable of filtering out unwanted noise and information. Hi guys, myself Pratik and you are watching Eclectic. Here we talk about our past, present and the future. And today let us critically analyze our present and create effective systems to make our everyday life more productive and more peaceful. But first, let's understand our enemy. In the second half of the 20th century, with the rise of technology and the internet, the governments around the world realized that they were no longer able to control the spread of information. So instead of wasting their time on censorship, they decided to use their resources to become part of this modern information ecosystem that arose after the invention of internet. And as we humans were about to enter the 21st century, we faced something sinister, the CNN effect. In other words, 24/7 news cycle. This theory states that 24-hour news networks such as CNN can influence the general political and economic climate. By the way, a fun fact, American news network CNN was the first news network to start the 24 hours news cycle. Then in the 21st century, the social media came along, which not only made information more accessible but also easily shareable, and that is how we entered the age of information overload. Everyone nowadays is busy slamming his or her views on our faces, and we the people are left confused, having no clue about how to make sense of this much information. Today, each of us has access to more information than we can reasonably use. Then we have our 21st century self-help gurus who keep telling us that we should read more books, watch good documentaries, listen to the audiobooks and podcasts while traveling. If that is not enough, they say listen to the audiobooks at 2x speed. But is that really good advice? Is our brain capable of stuffing that much information every day? Now many of you would ask, hey Pratik, what about those articles and research papers that claim our brain can store billions of books and the entire internet? To that, here is what I have to say. There is a difference between a hard disk and a human being. Memory storage devices do not have goals. Their primary job is to store the information, not to utilize it. Humans on the other hand have goals, and to reach those goals they need to be able to properly utilize the information they have as well as acquire new relevant information. Human intelligence cannot be measured based on the storage capacity of the brain. It is measured based on our ability to solve complex problems by utilizing the knowledge or the information we have. That is why we should consume information mindfully and should only focus on consuming information that will help us achieve our goals or serve our purpose. There is a fundamental difference between information and knowledge. Information is nothing but a refined form of data, which can be helpful in understanding just the meaning of something. Knowledge, on the other hand, is relevant and objective information that helps us in drawing conclusions. Too much information will not make us smarter, it will make us more confused. To make myself sound more authentic, let me invite psychology into our discussion. At this point, we are at the verge of being able to discover how much information the central nervous system is capable of processing. It seems we can manage somewhere between 4 to 7 bits of information such as differentiated sounds, visual stimuli, our emotions and sensing temperature at any one time. This is equivalent of processing 50 to 100 bits of information per second. And while performing intelligent or conscious activities such as reading or playing the piano, That capacity comes down to below 50 bits per second. It all sounds confusing, right? For commoners like us, it is difficult to make sense of scientific data. To make it simple, consider this fact that demonstrates the limitations of our brain. To truly understand what another person is saying, we must process 40 bits of information each second. That suggests that understanding what 2 or 3 people are saying simultaneously is theoretically impossible. We couldn't, for instance, be aware of speaker's expression, nor could we wonder about why they are saying what they are saying or notice what they are wearing if we truly want to understand what speaker has to say. Even habitual acts like using a smartphone and driving a car, if performed simultaneously, can get us into trouble. Multitasking is not something we should be proud of. We often think that combining tasks will save us time, but the scientific evidence shows that it has the opposite effect. Even those who claim to be good at multitasking are not very productive. In fact, they are some of the least productive people. When we multitask, our brain switches back and forth between one task to another, and unlike computers, our brain is not designed to run parallel processes simultaneously. It has been scientifically shown that if we continually ask our brains to switch back and forth between tasks, we waste time, make more mistakes, remember less, and our overall productivity decreases by 60%. So if we multitask, we end up spending all our energy on alternating between different tasks, instead of focusing on doing one of them well. Therefore, the bottom line is we need to use our psychic energy mindfully. It is very difficult to think or act clearly when we are drowning in information. For us humans, just storing lots of information is not enough. The information we consume must be easily accessible or retrievable. In other words, we must be able to utilize the information we consume to accomplish our goals, and to make it so we need to organize it well in our factory of knowledge. For that, we need systems for helping us in figuring out what is important and what is not. Systems that would transform the raw information we consume into concrete and useful knowledge. But are there any systems available? I have been wondering about this for a while, and I have come up with 2 solutions. I came across the first solution while I was reading my favorite subject, history, so I pulled it out from there. A technique that was used by the 34th US president. And the second solution is a framework that I use every day. I have successfully encoded that framework in my brain, so let's get into it. The 34th President of the United States, Eisenhower, faced an information overload when he became the president in 1953. He struggled to manage all the facts and fictions thrown at him, and to solve this problem he ended up inventing a system to organize information which is now called the Eisenhower Decision Matrix or Eisenhower Box. This matrix orders our priorities by their ratio of urgency and importance. First, understand the difference between urgent and important. Urgent tasks are the things that you feel like you need to react to. Emails, phone calls, texts, news stories, etc. Meanwhile, important tasks are things that contribute to your long-term growth. You just need to be aware of this difference. And then you can use Eisenhower Decision Matrix to come up with a clear framework for making the decisions over and over again. By using this matrix, you can separate your actions based on 4 possibilities: urgent and important. These are the tasks you will do immediately. Important but not urgent. Tasks you will schedule to do later. Urgent but not important. Tasks you will delegate to someone else. Neither urgent nor important. These are the tasks that you will eliminate. Eisenhower matrix is particularly useful because it pushes us to question what is truly necessary. On his blog, author of the best-selling book Atomic Habits, James Clear states that if you simply eliminate all of the things you waste time on each day, then you probably wouldn't need any tips on how to be more productive at the things that matter. Even the ancient philosophers were aware of this strategy. In his Meditations, Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius says, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" Now, the Eisenhower matrix is useful in decision making, but it does not involve the learning process. How can we identify what books we should read, what documentaries we should watch, what audiobooks and podcasts we should listen to? To figure out what information is essential for me to achieve my goals, I created a system which I call the Goal Directed Information Framework, GDIF. I personally use it, and here is how it works. God, I'm so excited to show you this. Let's switch to the overhead. So this is what I use to regulate the information I consume. It is based on a simple philosophy. Consuming information must be a goal-directed process. Every piece of information you consume must push you towards your goal. I think it won't be properly visible like this. Let me show you a digital version of it. Okay, these are my 4 goals here. In each box, I have mentioned the subjects and the skills I need to keep learning to make progress. In other words, I only need to consume information related to the things that are mentioned in the red color. The books I read, the audiobooks and podcasts I listen to, and documentaries I watch must all be related to these things. I try to avoid anything that does not come under this framework. Sometimes I fail, sometimes I succeed, but that's life. But having this framework means being sure about what matters to me and what doesn't. For example, after coming up with this framework, I realized that being on social media is not helpful to my cause, and that's why I stopped using them. Now I just open my social media accounts whenever I upload a new video to share its link on them. If you take a closer look at my goal-directed information framework, or else if you take a broader look at it, you will notice that all of my goals complement each other. They help each other and are closely related. I make YouTube videos to offer people a new perspective. In that process, I consume information related to philosophy, history, psychology, etc. Then my third goal is to figure out how my country can be improved. For that, I need to consume information related to politics. Even consuming information about the things mentioned in the second box can help understand how a country works or how people think. And the things mentioned in the first box can be used to execute the information I gain. In other words, utilizing that information to create something like this very YouTube video you are watching. The fourth goal is to learn art forms. I chose acting and filmmaking. You can choose singing, dancing, playing guitar, anything you like. Again, I can use acting and filmmaking skills to make better videos, to learn how to become confident in front of the camera, or to make good documentaries. It is very essential to find intersections like these to accomplish a broad range of goals with very few activities. Creativity is all about connecting dots and recognizing patterns. To give you an example, I make videos on self-improvement as well as history. So I was thinking, how can I combine these two subjects, and I ended up creating this video, Top 12 Lessons to Learn from Historic Leaders. In this video, you get to learn history as well as you get some good lessons on self-improvement. Now in the center of this framework, inside that red circle, I have mentioned the important activities I need to master or perform to get things done. They are reading, writing, acting and editing. These activities cover everything I do. When you have this kind of framework, it becomes easier to systematically tie important things together and boil all your priorities down to few most important things you should be doing to achieve your goals. Try this framework and you will realize that just few activities can help you accomplish a broad range of goals. And a small tip. Don't have more than 4 goals. If you list more than 4 goals, it won't be a list of goals. It would be a wish list. Look guys, life can get a lot easier if you spend 1 hour every day on self-assessment. People these days just start playing video games and scrolling through their social media feeds as soon as they finish work. But guys, sit and think, reflect on your choices, and then it will be far easier to reinvent your life just the way you want it.